Hey guys, welcome back to the Crafting Sparrow channel. My name is Amanda and this is where I do a monthly video showing and talking to you guys about what I've been making for my crafty endeavors, which is mostly knitting, but sometimes I also have crochet, cross stitch, or sewing. So if you want to see more of me in between episodes, I do have an Instagram where I post semi-regularly about what I'm working on and just what I've been up to. So if you're interested, there is a link to it in the description box where you will also find the links and mentions of all the patterns and the yarn that I use for the episode. So head on down there if you want more information. And yeah, let's get started on today's episode. So I have a big finished object. I have been working on a really scrappy, patchy sweater for a while now. If you've been here, you've seen it in its progress, and it's finished. I finished it, and I'm about to show you. I really like how it turned out. It's very eclectic. Of course, it's scrappy, so here it is. And I'm going to go into the nitty-gritty details of it in just a minute. I wanted to show you guys what it looks like first, and then I'll hop into it. But yeah, it's all just either one strand of aran or worsted weight, or DK or fingering weight held double. So lots of different scrappy yarns. I tried to use only yarn that is either wool or a wool blend. No acrylic, no cotton. I think the closest I get to a plant fiber is like a linen maybe, but I don't even think that, maybe that wasn't linen. So it's mostly all either alpaca or wool, cheap wool. So I'm gonna put it on real quick. Also, I moved my settings so that maybe my glasses didn't glare as much. I have a window like right there. And I tried wearing contacts a few times, but it's not as comfortable, and I like my glasses, so bear with me. I love the fit of this sweater, and I'm really proud of myself for designing this all by myself. It's very boxy. It's a drop shoulder. And I did a split hem with a lower back than the front. Very oversized, boxy fit. And yeah. I may not wear this the whole time I'm talking because it's actually very warm outside. And I have the AC off. I have the windows open and it's like 85 degrees outside. So I might go ahead and take this off now that you guys have seen it, but just wanted to show you what it looked like on. Yep. Okay, so yes, I'm gonna take this off. It's very hot here with this on, like instantly overheating. Okay, so like I said, it's drop shoulder. Basically what I did was I made a front panel and a back panel, which are identical, except the front panel I did some decreases on it's 5 squares wide, so from here to here it was the front panel, and the middle 3 squares I did some shaping on the front. I went and did I started at the bottom and did decreases until I think I got like half of the stitches across than there was at the bottom, so it's 20 stitches here and then 10 stitches up to here. And I did the same on the other one so that they were even, mirroring each other. And then this middle square was simply just half the height, so I think it's it's 24 stitches or 24 rows, so I only did 12 rows. So it's very symmetrical, and it just gave the back, which has none of that, a little bit more height. It's basically just making it so that the back is taller than the front. which if you know about sweater construction, that's very nice to have so that the bottom of your sweater isn't rising up higher than the front, and it doesn't like choke the front of your neck, which can happen with some sweaters if there's no shaping. So that's why I did that. And let's see, the sleeves, I simply just picked up stitches. I think I ended up picking up 71 stitches. Yeah, I think that's right. And then I knit in the round. The first square here, or square, is I did 24 stitches, just the same as the row count for each of these squares. And that way they were kind of like the same height as the squares. It kind of like matched it a little bit. And on the 24th row, I did a purl round. And then on the first row, the next color, I also did a purl round so that it kind of mimicked that patchy look that I have on the connections of each patch. That's how I did that. It's not the exact same, but I think it conveys the same feel. I don't know what you guys think. I really just wanted to knit the sleeves in the round because I was tired of seaming at this point because I did the sleeves last. So I think it turned out good. And so as far as decreases go, on the second square of the sleeves, I did 2 decreases. So I did the decrease style where you knit the first stitch and then you slip knit the next 2, and then you go around to the last 3 stitches and you knit 2 together, and then you knit your last stitch so that there's like kind of a buffer there where the decreases are. It's not just decreases bumped up against each other. See, you can see the decrease lines there. And my rate was, I did, the first round was a purl, no decreasing there, and then I think it was, you did a decrease round and then you knit 4 rows and then a decrease round until you got to the 24th row, which was a purl row. And then I did decreasing on this one as well. The third section decreased a little bit faster. So this decrease was every, I had 2 rounds of no decreases in between each decrease round. So I ended up going from 71 stitches to 47. And then on this last little section here, I didn't do any decreases and until the last row before I did the ribbing, in which case I decreased 7 stitches evenly till I had 40 stitches for the cuff. And there's a really nifty website I found from, actually it was from a pattern that I was working on this month. It recommended this website where you can type in your number of stitches you have and then how many stitches you want to either decrease or increase evenly around, and it'll tell you what to do to get that even decrease rate. It's really, really handy. And I'll link that down below in the description as well if you're interested. So, and then I did, I think it was 8 rows of 1x1 ribbing in the cuff, and then what's it called? Italian bind off? Yeah, I think that's what that's called. The really seamless one. So those were the sleeves. Honestly, really nice to work up. I think I did, my husband and I went on a little road trip, and I did 1 complete sleeve on the way there and back, which is roughly 5 hours. It was kind of neat to be able to know exactly how long it took me to do a sleeve. So yeah, it was really fun to do these sleeves, and I was kind of really wanting to just use up my scraps as much as, like, the scraps that I used, some of them ended up still having like balls that were like that big, but some of them were like really getting down to the last meterage, and I picked those held double most of the time. A lot of these colors are fingering weights held double just so that I can get them used out of my stash. This one is held double. This one is held double. I mean, it's actually 2, it's 1 strand is the same throughout, but there's actually 2 different of the second strands. It's really hard to tell, but they're completely different yarns. I think they even have different like makeups of them. Like the blend is different. So that was interesting. This one is 2 held together. And then I think that this one's actually my favorite part of the sleeve because it's again, one strand continuous throughout, and 3 different of the other strand of the 2. So this right here was the 2 of the same strands, and then I ran out of one of the balls that were separated and just switched to a different yarn, which is this right here. And I ran out of that, and then I switched to a different one, which you can pretty easily tell at that point. But it's almost like a fade, and I really like it. Yep. So those are the sleeves. The collar is just picking up stitches one by one with a Italian bind off, which was super easy to do without having to worry about much because of the way I shaped the necking. It was literally just picking up stitches, and I think this was also 8 rows, something like that. Fits really, really nicely on the neck. And then at the bottom, I just picked up an odd number of stitches, excuse me, an odd number of stitches, and did an Italian bind off as well. I think this right here ended up being like 4 inches, and this is like 1.5. So those are all the little details. Just wanted to get that part out of the way first because that's like the easiest part to talk about. But I did want to run you guys through how I did the actual like patches. So I actually have some scraps. Let me get them. I ended up, this thing is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. But when I originally made it, I actually did 6 rows for the front and back. And then when I seen them together and tried it on, I realized that I didn't need that much length. So I actually, it's a really nice thing about this process of making a sweater is you literally just undo like the seaming, the mattress stitch. And there, you don't have to unravel it if it's a bottom up. So that was really neat. Anyway, yeah, so each square I casted on 20 stitches. And then I immediately started working stockinette back and forth for 24 rows. And let's see. Yeah, and then on the first and last stitch, I did something a little special. I did on the right side, I slipped knitwise on the first stitch and the last stitch. And then when you worked on the wrong side, you just purled the first and last stitch so that it made these really nice like slip stitched edge. And even though there are 24 rows, there are 12 of those slip stitch edge stitches. Just because basically when you slip a stitch, it's basically skipping it. I guess you could consider it. So you have half as many stitches, but they're twice as long. Anyway, I did that so that I could more easily crochet these pieces together. And the way I did that, and I'll show you with these 2 pieces. Previously when I've talked about it, I didn't have like actual pieces to show you. So I think this will make it a little bit easier for you to visualize if you're interested in doing this yourself. Whenever I got a piece finished, a square finished, I wouldn't cut the ends, I would leave it. And this isn't the crochet hook that I use, but it's a good representation. I used a bigger hook, I think it was a 5mm. You count in each of these little slip stitch stitches you're going to crochet into. And so I would take, this is the right side, the wrong side. This is the square I just finished. You would face it outwards, so you're looking at the wrong side, and you would take the square that you want to attach it to, and you would have the right side facing you so that together the wrong sides are together. And the stitch that you are about to work into, or the last stitch when you bound off, that would be your first loop for your crochet, and you would just go into that first slip stitch edge of your piece you're attaching it to, and then the first slip stitch piece from the one you just finished, and you would just crochet and slip stitch, and you would just slip stitch on each of those edge stitches until you did it 12 times. And then at that point you would finish the loop, pulling the thread through, and you would snip it, and then they would be connected like that. And they would have kind of like you can see a bit of the blue and the green on the edge together. So it made a very like patchy look. And the nice thing about that is the side that your skin is touching in the inside is very flat. And to me that's really nice because it's not as like abrasive. So it's just a nice little technique I came up with. Ended up with 5 squares across for me. Of course, if you wanted to make it bigger, just add more squares, or even if you wanted to just make the squares smaller, like if you wanted to do, say, maybe 16 stitches by 20 rows, you can even like adjust it like that. So maybe you wanted smaller squares or even bigger squares, you could play. It's like the possibilities are infinite. And also you can make it even more scrappy like I did, and you could just add more like colors onto each square, or maybe even if you wanted to do like color work patterns, you could, like, literally the possibilities are endless. You could go crazy with the colors. I think I went crazy, but you could definitely go even more crazy. So yeah, so when I put them all together with the 5 squares, I would block it separately so that they were all the same sizes, because I went for the same yarn weights, kind of, but sometimes the yarn weight was just a little bit bigger than the next one. For instance, this tweed yarn tended to be a lot bigger than most of the other ones, but once you block it out, most of them tend to be relatively the same if you're going for relatively the same yarn weight. They all easily blocked out to be about 5 inches by 5 inches. So once you got done with those and blocked them, and I weaved in all the ends as I went, what I did was I went for a mattress stitch seam. And typically with mattress stitching, the advantage to that is you can do it so you don't see the seam that runs. A good example was my blanket back there. You can't see it, I'm blocking it. Back there. The quadrophenia blanket, you can't see where the pieces are together because the seaming is on the wrong side. But for this, because I wanted it to look very patchy, and I wanted to keep the wrong side very flat, I did it kind of the opposite of what you would expect. And I put the pieces together while I was facing the wrong side. And I'll show you the sweater inside out, so you can see what I'm saying. But basically when I mattress seamed them from the wrong side, so that the front had these very obvious bumps to them. And I figured that was about as close as I could get to it matching the vertical seams. See, this right here is from crocheting them together, and this right here is from mattress stitching them together. I thought about crochet slip stitching them together, but I didn't think it was going to be as clean because there's a lot more stitches to do. Does that make sense? Like, because with the pieces together on the vertical seams, you had the slip stitch details that were a lot easier to just work into loosely, but there's so many stitches on the top and they don't always line up perfectly. I just figured it'd be easier to do mattress stitch. So that's what I did. Maybe crochet would have worked. If you try it out, let me know. So yeah, I just seamed all of them up and did the back the same, and then I did do crochet seaming for the edges together. I just took one of my dark brown colors, you can kind of see right here, and I did the same mechanic for crochet slip stitching the squares together for the 2 edges. And I did 3 squares before I stopped for the armhole, and it kind of worked out perfectly having 2 squares for the armhole. Yeah. This just seemed, sorry, my camera's in front of my screen that I checked to see if you guys are looking at the right thing. Okay. That is the construction of my, what I'm now lovingly calling my patchy pullover. And now that it's officially very hot outside, I probably won't be wearing it, but I'm excited to just pick it up and look at it sometimes. I don't know. In the summertime, sometimes you just blast the AC and you just sit in 68-degree house conditions, because why not? So at that point I would wear it, probably. It's there for me when I want to wear it, and that makes me happy. And I'm also very proud of myself for doing this, like, completely by myself. If you've been here a while, you probably noticed that I don't really do my own designs. I've had some rough drafts of patterns, and I've had some brainstorm sessions of patterns, but most of the time I just get frustrated and I don't follow through with it. So I'm just really proud of myself for finishing this. Yeah. Something I really, really loved about this as well is the very fun experiment of mixing yarns together. As I mentioned, sometimes I used 2 fingering weight yarns held together, and I did not realize how much difference that can make on a yarn. For instance, let's go with, I think it's the back one. Oh, come on. It's like I was sitting there admiring it while I was making it, and now I can't find it. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll talk about the sleeve one here, because, I mean, I talked about it a little bit already, but this held together was Pearl Soho's Good Wool, and I used it for a sweater in the past, and a shawl. And I loved it as it held single, but there's something a lot more, like, squishy and soft when it's held, there's a gnat in my face. When it's held double, it's just a lot more, like, fuller, but not bulkier. Does that make sense? Probably not. I don't know. I just like the drape of it too. It's just so nice. And I think the same goes with the purple yarn here. This is the other Pearl Soho Goodwill. It just fills in spaces more, I guess, is what I'm finding out. And I like it. Also, it's honestly just mostly my sleeves that I worked with. One of the strands was a 100% baby alpaca. Maybe it's just 100% alpaca. It's simply alpaca from Knitpicks, the darker tone of this brown. And mixing it together with some of these other wools, I love the feeling of this. It's like, it's got that soft silkiness of alpaca, but it's still, it feels like more substantial, like wool. So that was fun. Anyway, my point in all that was that it's really fun to just, like, play with different yarns held together. And not have to worry about it looking that bad, because the whole thing is just chaos. So you really didn't have to worry about it not matching or whatever, because the whole point is that it doesn't match. And I was like, I put it on in front of my husband, and I was like, oh, look, it's so cute. And he was just like, that's just so many colors. It's like, yeah, that's the point. He's like, I like the shape of it, the construction's great, but the colors are not for me. So that's okay. I'll just purposely wear it in front of you on all of our dates so that you can be embarrassed. No, I wouldn't do that. Anyway, I've been talking about this one for a while. I knew it was going to take me a hot minute to talk about this, because there's so many details. So, yeah. I guess if there's one thing that there's 2 things I regret about this. One is I like the back a lot more than the front. Can you tell why? It's these 2 squares right here. That bright purple, and I know I literally just got done saying that it doesn't need to match, but I think there was kind of a theme going on, and that purple interrupts it a little bit. It's okay. It's fine. The other thing is some of these patches, like this one right here and this one right there, and there's a reddish brown one as well. Oh, it's all on the front. This one right here. I like the colors, but this is it's Lore from the Fiber Co. and it's 100% British lamb's wool. It's very, very scratchy. I made the pressed flower shawl out of those two colors, and while them being in a shawl where the whole thing is made from that, and I have worn it over time, washed it, it's softened up wonderfully, but with it being on this garment, I don't think it's going to get as much, I don't think it's going to go through that process of softening as quickly, just because I'm not taking care of this garment as if the whole thing needs to be like broken in a sense. I kind of did that with the shawl. I had it in mind that I had to maybe wet block it more or wear it more and just give it that time to soften up. This, I don't know if it's going to do that with such small patches. I don't know, we'll see, I guess, but because all the other yarns in this are so soft except for those. So I'm going to stop jabbering about this one. So this one, I'm calling it my Patchy Pullover, and I love it. So it is done. My next finished object is one that you guys have not seen yet. This was kind of just like an impulse cast on. I made the Nurture Bralette by Celine Feyten. I think this is a fairly popular bralette pattern because it's very, very size inclusive, and it's really cute, and I think the biggest thing is that it's adjustable and size inclusive, because with bras, if you're not size inclusive, then you're really going to isolate a lot of people, because I mean, not only are people's like basic bodies already like all different shapes and sizes, but breasts particularly can be very different, varying from one person to the next, or even from one tit to the other. So being able to adjust each individual cup is very, very advantageous for a knitter. And so I will say that about this pattern, it's very, very accommodating. Here it is. It's made out of some leftover yarn I had, Knitpicks Stroll fingering weight. This is a wool nylon base, 75 fine superwash merino wool, 25 nylon. I have enough of that to make another one, and I might, maybe, still thinking about it, because I do have some gripes about this, and it's not the pattern, it's me, the way I knit it, but I'm not quite sure that I would try and figure out my mistakes, because there's another bralette pattern that I've made in the past that it really works for me specifically, so I might just make that instead. It's the Aphrodite bralette by, I don't have the artist here with me, but it will be, I may or may not put it in the description box below if I remember, but it's on Ravelry, the Aphrodite bralette. Anyway, that's this, I'm talking about this one. Yeah, let me show it to you better. It has a lace detail at the bottom, which is really hard for me to show you, but they're little leaves. I think you can kind of see it there. A repeating lace pattern of leaves with some twisted ribbing here and also on the side. It's very pretty. And the straps, so the way that this is constructed, you start with the straps, and then with provisional cast-ons, and then you attach the back and the front cups and the back straps, the back like section. Let me try that again. You go from the straps onto the next sections like the cups or the back piece. Basically, all that was just to say that you start with the straps. And I had an issue with that, because the thing with bralettes is as you wear them and, you know, all that good stuff, your straps tend to stretch out. This is all just to say it was very hard for me to judge how long I wanted my straps to be. I think I much prefer the bralette construction of starting at the waist piece and working your way up, and then lastly doing the strap so that you can have the piece around you and you can see where it's going to lay on you. And that was especially kind of difficult for this because the cups are kind of, it's centralized around the apex of the breast, basically where your nipple sits. And so if your straps were, and this is what happened to me, if your straps are too long when you put it on, the apex of the cup is not sitting directly on your nipple, and so it looks a bit different. It looks kind of funny, especially because it uses short row shaping. It's very obvious where the short row shaping was because of the way I knit it, I guess. And so it looked very odd on me. It's not a big issue really because I'm just gonna be wearing this under shirts anyway. But if I wanted to wear it as like a top, I don't think I would be comfortable doing that because it looks very strange. Yeah, that was my gripe. I think that I would rather make a bralette from the waist up so that I know exactly where the fabric's gonna lay when I make the straps. And it's a lot easier to take rows out if you're doing the straps last, because usually the way that is, you knit until it's the length and then you attach it. So if you put it on, all you have to do is undo your attachment point and then undo some rows. It's a lot easier because if you're doing straps first, then you have all of that fabric that is knitted from that point. You'd have to unravel the whole thing. So yeah, mine straps end up being too big. There is this really cute alteration you can make where you kind of do bows at the top. It's basically taking the very top of the strap, winding that together, and then you do this, and then you do a circle around that with yarn, and so it makes a little bow on it. And I did do that, and then I realized that I had made it too short, so I undid it, and then I realized I wanted to do a crossback modification. This was not in the pattern. It didn't tell you to do this, and I wouldn't recommend it, honestly. I'm okay with it, but when you do the crossback, basically I just attached it. This back fabric it hangs out a little bit. It's like, it's just because you're bringing the back pieces together, and so there's extra fabric there in between where the straps connect. So it's kind of just like bows out a little bit. But I don't really care that much. It's just what I had to do for me to feel comfortable with the length of the straps and the way so that the cup fit a little bit better on my breasts. So, yeah, that's the Nurture bralette. It's very soft. I like this yarn for bralettes. Oh my gosh, I didn't even talk about needle sizes for my scrappy cardigan. I think it was 4.5 millimeters. That sounds right. There's a 5. I think it's 5 millimeters, and then the ribbing was 4 millimeters. Somewhere around there. Sorry. I did not write a single thing in my journal about what I did for that patchy pullover. Which doesn't really make sense, right? Because this doesn't have a pattern to follow. I should probably write it down so that I can do it again in the future, but that's what this video is for. I'll just listen to myself talk about it. Anyway, for this, though, I made it with a 2.5 millimeter needle. I believe that is smaller than what the pattern recommends. If you're new here, it's very, very typical for me to go down a needle size. 1 millimeter usually is what it takes. Sometimes it's more depending on the yarn type and the goal of the fabric. But I think this was just 1 millimeter shorter. Possibly, don't quote me on that. And I didn't write down what needle size I used for the ribbing, but it was smaller. I think it was probably 2.25 millimeter. I'm terrible at taking notes when it comes to that. I made the size 3. Like I said, there are so many modifications you can make. I didn't feel like using the brain space, so I just trusted that I was within the right measurements for size 3 all over. Like, that includes the straps, the cup, the waist, everything. But you can adjust all of that if you want to. That's how awesome the pattern is for that. But I just straight knit the size 3. I don't think I made any modifications other than the strap stuff. And I think I knit a few more rows underneath the cups just to give it more length. Other than that, that is that. That's all the knitting finished objects. I do have a cross stitch finished object, and I am obsessed with it. Here it is. I realize, I think that the camera is for you guys, so you may not be able to see what it says, but it says, enjoy the little things. I think that last time I was talking about it, I was either starting on the back stitching or I hadn't started it yet, but yeah, it's all back stitched and washed and ironed and everything. I didn't wash it, I steamed it so that I could get the wrinkles out and stuff, but I need to find a frame for it, and that will be that. I don't know if I'm going to do a circle frame or if I'm going to do a square frame. I'm going to look around and see what's out there. I'll probably just buy a cheap frame somewhere. The pattern is from this book, Cross Stitch for the Earth by Emma Congdon. I talked about it before. Really cute, has a bunch of like earthy cross stitch patterns. There's definitely a few in here that I want to do on top of that one. Probably like 2 or 3 other ones. But it's a really cute book just to have too. So, highly recommend that. And I'll put a link to where you can buy it on Amazon as well in the description box. I need to take a before and after picture of this from before I did back stitching and after. I talked about how excited I was to do that, but I never actually did. I did take a photo of it with my phone, but I want to take a really nice photo with my macro lens and everything. So, yeah. There's definitely some mistakes in here as well. I don't know what happened, but some of the little details ended up being a lot closer to each other than they were supposed to. I don't know what happened. I thought I counted the squares right, but apparently not. That's okay, you can't tell. I love it. I especially love this little robin. I'm a little bit sad how much the bottom of the word little blends in with the background, but what are you gonna do? It's finished. I like it anyway. I used DMC Floss for those because the book gives you DMC Floss coats, so that's what I used. But you could definitely just like freeform it and just pick whatever colors you want. Yeah, that's all of the finished objects. I don't have very many works in progress, so let's go ahead and get into that. I have 2. And one of them you've seen a lot. I'll just go ahead and talk about that one actually. This is my Bruins scarf. I'm not going to go into all of it because I've talked about it so many times. But I just wanted to show you guys how it's going since the last time I saw you. I don't have a progress keeper. I probably should have put one in. But it's getting long, my dudes. So, short rundown, gold means the Bruins won, black means the Bruins lost. And each stripe is 4 rows, so this is only 1 loss. They are ranked number 1 in the NHL, so as you can tell, they're doing really well. And they have clinched their spot in the playoffs for the Stanley Cup. And I'm really excited. I don't know if I'm going to include the playoff games or not yet. I am highly debating on whether I want to. I think what I'm probably going to do is just like wait until the very end. And if they win the Stanley Cup, then I will incorporate those rows. If they don't, I'll just leave it out. I think that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, that was just a quick little recap of how the Bruins scarf has been going. Also, if you're curious, it's just a 2x2 rib detail. That's it. And I did the same slip stitch edge as the patches for my Patchy Pullover. Okay. Last works in progress. This is a project for my mom. She requested a cardigan and she picked out yarn and everything for it, and it's been really fun. It's a cable-y cardigan. It's called the Cabin Life cardigan by Joji Locatelli. Get it situated to show the right side. Isn't it pretty? It's a cable cardigan. It has these 6-stitch cable crossings with these big purl sections in between. And I have knit the left and right panel and the back, and I have joined them. I think my next big step, there's this cable crossing detail that happens about 8 inches after the underarm. That's my next big step. And yeah, it's made out of Knitpicks Twill and their Graphite Heather colorway. It's very nice yarn. My mom was very honest. I said you can go a little bit cheaper and get a non-superwash wool, or even cheaper than that and get acrylic, or you can go a little bit more expensive and get superwash. And I told her all the pros and cons of each kind, and she really wanted to get superwash because she was like, I'm not gonna hand wash this. I was like, okay, but if you get wool, unless it's superwash, you're not gonna be able to put it in the washer and dryer. So she was like, I'll just go with superwash. And so we looked at what Knitpicks had, and this was honestly a perfect fit for this cardigan. I met gauge pretty much. I think I went down. I think I still went down an equal size, but like the fabric that it turned out was really nice for the gauge, and it's really soft. It's a really pretty color. Even though it's dark, you can still see all the cable-y details to it really easily. Basically, I guess you would just call that good stitch definition. Yeah, it's been really, really fun. I'm making the size 6 for my mom, and I actually did gauge swatch for this and washed it and blocked it, because if you were here for the vest number 8, I think, debacle, you know the tragedy that was not blocking my gauge swatch. So yeah, that's that. I think that's all that I have to say about that, because it is just a work in progress. Sorry, I keep looking out because there's birds on my feeder and it's very distracting. Yeah, that's what I've been working on. Usually towards the end, I just talk about future plans, but I actually have acquisitions to show you guys this time, and I'm so excited. The first one I'll show you was, oh, there's that gnat again. From Gather Your Thoughts, Amanda. Okay, acquisition. Look at this pretty thing. Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? That's because it's yarn from Kelcey of Knitting Nikabi. She has the Fictional Worlds Club this year, and this one was called The Shire, so obviously I had to get it. And I was right to, because look at it. It's stinking beautiful. It's everything that I would have wanted it to be. It's got these really pretty, like, earthy greens with, like, just a little bit of yellowish green tones to it in some spots. And these, like, off-white colors. I'll undo it out of the hank so you can get a better appreciation of it. Look at that. Kidding me? I have no idea what I'm going to make out of it. I have no idea. But I love it. So if you have any suggestions, it might be another bralette. I don't know. It's only one skein. You can only do so many things with one skein, so. I could do a beanie. Not really a beanie person, though. I don't know. I'll figure something out. I actually have a little collection of yarn from Kelcey that I unintentionally have made, like, bought them, and they're kind of match. I intentionally bought them, but they're unintentionally matching in a way in the colors. Hold on. I'll show you. Like, obviously this is an outlier, right? But they kind of fade a little bit, right? Because this one has that pale color that's kind of like this, and then this is also kind of in this. Maybe I could make a shawl with it. I don't know. but they're really pretty. I love Kelcey's yarn. I wish I could afford to buy more of it. I'm not going to attempt to put that back in the shelf where it was. I'm just going to put it aside for after. Okay. So yeah, I don't know what I'm going to make with that yarn, but I like it. Let me put this back. Okay. My next acquisition is the Hobby New Arezzo. I bought enough of this to make the Kettle River Cardi by Winter's Weather Knits, and I'll pop a picture up over here. I was really wanting to go ahead and buy my like spring plan cardigan. I didn't know I was gonna make a cardigan. I kind of knew I wanted to make a cardigan, but I wasn't sure if I was gonna do like a tee or, you know, whatever. I decided on that because it's you can do short sleeve version. This is a linen, bamboo, and cotton blend, so it's gonna be very drapey, but also not hot. And also that cardigan is designed to be a little bit longer, and I really like the look, the summer look of having the shorts with the longer flowy cardigan design. Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna go for. This was the color 2122, if that helps you with anything. It's like a silver without it being so white. It's like a beigey silver. It's got like that shine to it from, I guess, from the bamboo. It's really pretty. It's very loosely, what's the word? Twisted? There's another word for that. Wound? I don't know. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. I'm excited about that. But here lately I've been really wanting to go back to monogamous knitting, so like hardcore monogamous knitting. For a while there I had the Patchy Pullover and another project, and now that Patchy Pullover is done, I'm just gonna focus hard on one thing, and that's gonna be my mom's cardigan. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to start the Kettle River Cardi with that. So those are my plans. I'm happy. That's all that I have to talk to you about, like knitting stuff, but I do have some life event announcements to make. If you're interested, you can stick around. If not, completely understand. Thanks for listening for as much as you did, and just being generally interested in what I'm making. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. But if you're sticking around, I donated my yarn. Well, not all of it, obviously, but I came into a lot of gifted yarn a couple months ago, and I'm really, really appreciative of that person gifting me yarn. But then I realized a couple weeks ago that it was kind of like giving me a inspiration block. If you've been around a while, you know that my yarn buying tends to be, I see a pattern I like, and then I buy the yarn for that pattern, and then I make that pattern. It's very linear. That's just what makes my brain happy. Now I had all this yarn that I didn't have projects planned for, and I was seeing things that I liked, seeing patterns that I liked, trying to fit the yarn that I have into them, and most of the time it just didn't work, and it really frustrated me, and I didn't feel like really making anything with the yarn that I had, and so I didn't want to make anything at all. And I think that my knitting took a slump because of that. Like, it definitely did. I think because I had the Patchy project that kind of like carried me through. I feel like if I didn't have that Patchy Pullover to do, I wouldn't have knit for like a week or two, which is insane for me because knitting is something that is in my daily routine. So yeah, I just had a heart-to-heart with myself, got all my yarn out, and said, okay, do I have a project plan for this? And also the other big question was, is it sentimental to me? And if the answer to both of those questions was no, I put it in a box, and I took If you shop at Aldi, you know they have those paper bags. They're like that tall, stacked full of that, and also a box like that big, just packed. Just donated it. And it felt really good to just not have to think about that being in my stash. And I mean, a lot of it was given to me anyway, so it wasn't like a financial loss, but some of it was yarn that was, you know, like good quality yarn that was just left over from a project, and I just didn't have, I didn't know what to do with the extra skein, so I just donated it, and it felt really good. So now, the yarn that I have in my stash, I have, if not a definite project in mind, at least type of project in mind that I know it'll work with, or it's sentimental to me, like Kelcey's yarn, or I have some single skeins that are from like an advent calendar and just like special trips that I went with my husband, and I picked up a skein of yarn, things like that. But it's all pretty much fits in my cubby over here now, which is only like that big. And there's some in my closet over there, but that's like a sweater's worth, and well, you know, okay, maybe there's some stuff that I don't have plans for, but I just kept it away because I could see me using it. You know how it goes. I got rid of a lot of yarn. That counts as something. Anyway, one of the reasons why another reason why I decided to donate them instead of like trying to sell it or whatever is because I'm trying to clean house. So other big news, my husband and I are moving in like a month and a half, 2 months. So yeah, the less I have to pack and move, the better. Yeah, so on that, actually, this monthly knitting thing, I hope to still be able to do for the next 2 months. But if I don't post in April, it's because I am overwhelmed with packing. If I don't post in May, I'll probably post in May because we're supposed to be settled in by the 3rd week in May. So if I don't post in May, it's because I haven't really had much time to knit and I don't have much to show you, but I'll still probably try to record something. So there's that, and I think that's everything. That's my month. I started this new segment. I called it Noteworthy Accounts. That's what I called it. Yeah, I don't have any to show you this month. See how long that one lasted. I don't know. I just haven't really found any accounts on Instagram or YouTube that have really like stuck out to me. Of course, there's tons of beautiful Instagram accounts in the fiber arts community, but I just hadn't like noticed any that stuck out to me. I don't know. This is just kind of like a gut feeling thing, I guess. It's not a big deal. I just didn't find anything I thought was noteworthy. I feel like kind of like a rude person for saying that. There's so many noteworthy accounts, I just didn't pull any out for today. I'm lazy, that's what it was. Yeah, so I'm not doing that this time, and I think that's it. Thanks for watching and sticking around this long if you're still here. I hope you have a wonderful next coming month, and I will see you guys then, or maybe the next month. Bye!